All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to another series. Here with us for EcoTV series, I have with me Chidima uh, and Dorothy, and Rejoice is joining us on Ghost Mode. We also have Peter joining us here. And I think we just remind you again that you can follow us on our social media platforms. We are on Twitter and also on Instagram at Oxintel. We are also on Facebook and, of course, on LinkedIn at Oaks Intelligence. Let me start this evening by asking Chidima. Chidima, I do realize that you are not in the country, but you do interact with people across the country. What's the feeling like when you call your friends or follow up with everyday Nigerians on issues across the country? I mean, what's the feel across the country?
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's nice being here. I think every Nigerian, both home and abroad, knows that things have never been this bad, and the economy is really having its down toll on everybody, especially for those people that are based in Nigeria and aim in Naira, because the value of the Naira is depreciating so badly, and sometimes when you think, oh, directly, how does the increase or devaluation of Naira affect our daily living? You notice that Nigeria is more of a consumer nation than a producer country. So we import literally everything. And because we import everything, you don't transact with Naira, you transact with Forex. And to get that Forex, it means that you have to gather so much Naira to just get the equivalent of the dollar. And so it affects the common man, even the woman selling tomatoes in the market, because as little as the fuel she will use to either preserve the tomato in her fridge or the transportation that will help bring it from the north to the south or the east, it's imported. That's how serious everything is. So it affects every single person because our lives are interconnected. So we don't live life in isolation. So one area of the economy is affected, it translates to the other. And even as little as food livestock, you may be thinking, okay, the cow rearer that wants to sell goats that maybe last year goat was 40,000 naira, now a goat is 100,000 naira. How does this affect the goat man? The man also is buying food. He's buying pastures for the goats. He has to pay his workers. So as you are also buying all these things for these grains, these cereals for your animals, as you're trying to ensure that, oh, they are healthy and you have to make ends meet, right? You're spending more money because the amount of money you would have used to buy maybe a bag of cereal or a bag of livestock for your feeding animals, it's double the price, triple the price. Your maybe the person laborer that was earning 2,000 naira is telling you, Oga, now my transportation to this place is now 1,500. So the 2,000 naira you were even paying me is not enough. So right now you have to increase it to 5,000 naira. So at the end of the day, we that are buying the goat's meat at little quantities in the market, everything we end up as the end consumer being the people bearing the bulk of it. So when you know that life is not in isolation, you know that we don't have to be earning in foreign currency for us to be affected by the increase in forex rates. It's everything is interconnected. So that's what I would just say. So generally, to just give a straight answer, things are not so good. Like the average day Nigerian is really suffering because cost of living has tripled, not even doubled.
Dorothy, let me go over to you. One of the things that we are seeing now is everything is becoming sachet. So, yeah, I mean, we thought pure water was the only sachet we have, but even premium drinks are in sachet. Everything is in sachet. I mean, how are you coping as an everyday Nigerian? Going out to purchase things and all that. Do you think the availability of things in sachet for everyday Nigerian is causing some little reprieve, or is just a further means of exploiting, the everyday Nigerian? I mean, what's it like, buying and purchasing things and just trying to go from day to day.
Okay, good evening. So, if I may get you right, I think one of the things you want to know is how it is to purchase things in sachets, pure water, other some of those products that manufacturers are trying to make in sachets so people can afford.
Mm,
It's really not easy for the manufacturers and also the buyers also, because in as much as they try to make these things in sachet, pure water, the prices are still not fair. The quantity is still not good to purchase because of the size of the things or the items. Some things that has been in sachet before has reduced in quantity. People are also seeing the effect. And then some of the things also, even those in sachet, also the prices has also skyrocketed. So the prices are still not fair both side. Even if it's just you trying to reduce it, the quantity is not good, and then the prices are still affecting the common man. The pure water prices, which happens to be like one of the common most used source of water to everyone, now the price itself has doubled. So it's really not easy any which way we see it, being in sachet or not in sachet, the prices are still not fair to a layman and a common man in the society.
Thanks, Dorothy. Just before we do a deep dive, Toby is just trying to set up system to take us through the leaderboard. Let me go over to Peter. Peter, you are not immune from the happenings in Nigeria, even if you are outside Nigeria. I mean, one would think that the satirization of the economy, where everything is turned to sachet, at least would help the common man partake of some modicum of decent living. But from your own experience in South Africa, I mean, it's you hear people complain and say, "Listen, what's happening in Nigeria? Yeah, it's not unique to Nigeria. It's a global trend. Everyone is, every country is grappling with the whole issue, of an economic downturn." But what do you think is happening, perhaps in South Africa, that might be a little different from Nigeria, and perhaps may have improved the chances of everyday Nigerians having some reasonable standard of living?
I would say it's basically just an issue of Nigeria lacking a viable system that actually works. So South Africa, yes, as well as some other countries, I mean, even in the West and in Europe, are facing a lot of issues. And you can see that there's a lot of like push and pull forces going on, Just recently, a populist won the election in Argentina, right? So there's dissatisfaction across board in different like countries. But what makes Nigeria's case, as well as many other countries that we call developing countries, but they're not really developing countries. They are developing countries, so they're actually going back. They're not like they're going forward. So what is lacking is that these countries don't have like a baseline for essential things. Like, okay, for example, in South Africa now, there's like, at least to some extent, power, even though there's load shedding, at least there's at least 20 to 22 hours of power, right? There's water. I go to the tap, I turn the tap on, water comes out most of the time, right? And so on and so forth. So these are like basic things, and they are the result of like some people having had a plan, having had some kind of mindset, and having executed those plans and set up those systems to make those things to work with a long-term, agenda. That is what's lacking in Nigeria. There are other things that we can also talk about, which I just got exposed to recently, but I think we can talk about that. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Peter. Toby, while you were setting up, I was just going through the leaderboard again, and I think it's interesting to see that we are beginning to have some northern states begin to make excursion into our bottom 10 states. Today I saw Kogi State. FCT has stabilized as one of the laggards. We see Kano, one of the other key states, make some excursion. It does its excursion in and out. But now we are seeing Kogi, making a grand entrance here among the bottom 10 states. I mean, I understand the fact that the way the data is computed, it might not really throw depth into context because of the uniform weighting that's applied across board. But I mean, is this not showing that even the North that we thought was immune or was a little better than the southern states, that things are a lot tougher there or getting worse?
Yes, so good evening, everybody. Well, I had said this before. I think I said this maybe in the first episode here, and I think I also mentioned even when I was writing the report for the analysis that we did for September and October. But even though things appear to be cheaper or maybe less expensive over in the north, what seems to be happening is that there seems to be a higher rate of change for many of these northern states or the northern region in general. So meaning that, okay, so if for let's say the southeast now, the cost of accommodation rose from maybe 150,000 on average to 160,000 on average. That's like just let's say less than 7% increase, right? But you notice that for the north, even though maybe less in the north, it's even the accommodation goes from maybe 50,000 to something else, the rate of change is higher than in the southeast. And this was also observed even from our very first market intelligence report. So it's obvious that everybody is beginning to touch everybody. Let's just put it that way, right? These things are like beginning to touch everybody. So nobody's immune from bad governance. Nobody's immune from inflation. So it will eventually get to everybody. So I think that's just the best way to explain it.
I think when you were talking, I think what entered into my mind to me was last, you don't cast. Now everybody go chop breakfast. So, so you see the breakfast is going around. Okay, so I think one of the important news we covered during for the Eco News series for this week, which was released today, just to let our viewers know that you can subscribe to Eco Weather weekly report. So we have 3 reports that come out every week. On Mondays, 9 a.m., we have our Eco News. On Wednesdays, 9 a.m., we release the Eco Tracker, as well as this particular video comes out every Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. And of course, on Friday, we have the Eco Tales or our Yard People series. One of the news there that I was going through was this issue of the soaring prices of food across the country, and how it is, it is forcing families to make a decision on whether to eat or to purchase medicine. And one of the reasons for this is because many of one of the major manufacturers of medicine in the country, GSK, has made its exit, and there are rumors that Sanofi will be following next year. I was going through Twitter and I saw this post by a lady Nefertiti at First Leadership, or someone on X, so formerly Twitter, and she had this post on, this statement. The first one was Seretide. This is produced by GSK. It's moved from 5,000 naira to 70,000 naira. Ampiclox from 1,000 naira to 13,000 naira. Ventolin inhaler from 2,800 to 8,000 naira. And then Augmentin 625 milligram from 4,500 to 25,000 naira. And so what was going through my mind when I was looking at this was the growth here is senseless. I mean, this is what you will think if you were charting this, it would look like cryptocurrency, the kind of jumps we have in cryptocurrency. Just before we we move over to have Chidima give us some in-depth views on this. Toby, let me ask again. I mean, what's happening here? Because salaries, we are not seeing anything with regards to salaries in terms of increment on the part of the government. How are families coping, especially people that have to treat themselves and make use of these drugs? How are they coping with this massive leap in prices of these drugs. I mean, these prices don't make sense. Seretide moved from 5,000 to 70,000. This is not 100%. This is not 10x. This is not even a 10x move here, right? Which is crypto war. This is serious. I mean, how are families coping here?
My answer would be I genuinely do not know. And in fact, because this has been in the news for a while, and before this even happened, I've always been concerned with the fact that people are struggling, even in terms of food. So now, in terms of the prices of these certain drugs, because these drugs are very, very like commonly used in Nigeria. Bentonine inhaler is probably, in fact, if you go to the pharmacy, you don't even tell anyone to buy inhaler, you tell anyone to buy Bentonine. You probably just say inhaler tablets, and something like that. So the point is, these are household names and drugs that people use very commonly, and so obviously the impact of this is going to be very terrible. In fact, for me, as much as the increase in, because as a Nigerian, everything around me is already increasing in price. So if generally, let's say I go to the pharmacy and they say, this thing has increased in price, as a common, many Nigerians probably don't have this information that we have, that probably GSK is living in Nigeria. Many Nigerians do not even follow things like that. So they go to the pharmacy, they just say, it's now so and so price, and they say, okay, that's fine. They don't really know what's going on. So my point is, everything around us is already increasing in price. So most people will just find a way to adapt. There's a popular saying that.
Toby, wait. Are you saying that I used to buy something for 5,000 naira? So I come to the market, you tell me 70,000. How do I adapt?
This is the truth. This is the truth I would say. See, one thing about Nigerians is that, unfortunately, we talk a lot about, like, we complain about this, but it's most likely not going to change, and everybody has gotten used to that system. And so eventually, we are all going to have to say, well, I have a choice. I'm going to have to like that. And I just want to say that, aside the increase in price, which is already a big concern, I feel like what people are not talking about more is the fact that there's now going to be a lot of fake products in the market. A lot of people are going to be looking for alternatives, cheaper alternatives to. But there was time when I was back in Lagos, where I was living, there was a pharmacy that was very popular in our community, like the go-to pharmacy in our community for trusted drugs. And out of nowhere, one day, we just said that they've closed down their pharmacy. Apparently, they've been selling fake drugs for a lot of years. And this is the pharmacy that I'm saying that like the whole community rallies around. So imagine that kind of situation, and that was maybe 7-8 years ago. Now look at this kind of situation where now me as let's say I'm owner of a pharmacy, or I'm a retailer. It's now more expensive for me to tell those things to buy. And when I buy, people probably not even want to buy. They probably want to look for a cheaper alternative. So the question is, do I now spend that much money and find this and I not get it, or do I look for a cheaper solution? And so you're going to see that the saturation of fake products and fake medicines in the market, which people are not even talking about a lot. I saw a post on Twitter today that said that with the way GSK is living in Nigeria, right, with the amount of fake products that are going to enter the market, Nigeria is going to need about $5 coins to save us. And it's very true, because once this happens, you can hardly tell fake from the original. So I feel like as much as we should be concerned about the fact that things are now going to be more expensive, or these prices are now more expensive, fortunately there are some alternatives to most of these drugs. However, we should be more concerned about those that are now going to be buying the fake products, and which is going to be affecting their health negatively. I feel like this is another thing we should really, really be talking about.
All right. Thanks, Toby. I think we'll go over to Chidima to take some insights. So Chidima is a qualified pharmacist from Nigeria. She's currently residing in Canada, and I think her insights will be very useful here. So one of the first questions I want to ask Chidima is, when you go to the pharmacy, I go to my local pharmacy, there's Panadol, there's paracetamol. Paracetamol is Paemzo. Panadol is another major brand. Nigerians usually tend to go for most of these major brands, but then the problem is they are doing the same thing, I should believe, but their price differences are quite significant. You find that in Ampiclos, where they say, oh, this one is by Bicham, this is the price, this is by another particular product. I mean, why do we have, such disparities in the prices of, these drugs doing the same thing but of different manufacturers?
Okay, so I thought it was a Nigerian thing until I started taking my courses for my professional exams here in Canada, and you hear most of our lecturers that are also community pharmacists tell you that they also face the same issues here in Canada. So it's not a Nigerian thing whereby people come to the pharmacy and they're like, oh, we want Tylenol. Tylenol is their branded ibuprofen here, and they're like, oh, you want Tylenol, and you're like, okay, we don't have Tylenol available, we have another brand, and you're like, no, I want Tylenol. And because here they have insurance, you have to give it to them, right? They'll tell you there's insurance to cover for it. So I feel the issue is that in paper, on theory, clinical trials will tell you that Panadol and Emzor, Panadol is by GSK, that is paracetamol, right? Panadol contains paracetamol. Emzor paracetamol is still the same thing. They do the same thing. In theory, on paper, they will tell you clinical trials, they contain the same thing and they do the same thing. And it has been tested in people that it's a blind trial whereby you are giving paracetamol and you're giving Panadol and they see the same effect. But the general populace will tell you, no, when I take Panadol and I take 2 tablets, I'm okay if I had a headache or maybe a pain. But when I take paracetamol, I have to take like 4. And then at the end of the day, I may not even feel so good. I may have to add diclofenac or ibuprofen or another pain relief to feel so good. So when a patient comes to the pharmacy, they are telling you, give me Panadol, give me Ventolin inhaler. Ventolin inhaler, it's not actually the active ingredients. That's actually the name of the company. That's GSK's brand products, right? So it's really funny because at the end of the day, you now get to see that is it now more of a bias on the side of the patient, whereby because you have this feeling, you have this psychology that with these brand products, you get better compared to the other generics, whereby other ones that are not branded, the unbranded ones, you don't get as much effects. So you feel, okay, the branded one has more effect. So I would say on my own part that, to be fair, this for a product to be called a branded product is because they are the first initiators in the market. These are the people that made the breakthroughs in the market. So they have the active ingredients, they have everything. And usually you are given a patent of 10 years before that companies come in. So when other companies come in, they try to do their own trials and everything. But the truth is that they will sell you, if it's in a local Nigeria, if it's not Panadol, it will be Panadol, right? And so here in other foreign countries whereby they are so key on research, they are so key on clinical trials, they have so much grants. These other companies get grants from the government to carry out this research. They have grants from the government whereby it does not have to be from the company. They can spend money to really find out, okay, how qualitative are these things? There's so much quality assurance. There are so much check and balances that the branded is almost as good as the unbranded. But in Nigeria, I don't think our government, I don't know how many companies get research grants or how many research grants companies like EMS or FITSIN have gotten from the Nigerian government. I don't know that, okay, go and carry out these clinical trials, go and do that. So this research they do, they are borne by the companies. These are cost by the companies. How many small pharmaceutical companies, especially in the East, West, where you have all these pharmaceutical companies, how many companies really have the money to carry out this research? So most times what they do are substandard product, like what Mr. Tobo was saying. So a lot of all these small companies that you are seeing around, that you see, oh, when you look at the product, made in Idumota, made in Onitsha, made in Abakaliki, many of them are actually just made in chemists, made in labs. They don't actually go through any clinical trials. So that's why a lot of them are fake products. So at the end of the day, it's really true that when you compare these branded products with so many of the untrusted, unbranded products, you have more effect to the branded product. So you could say, yes, it's the people are biased. The people know exactly, biased in the sense that when you are coming, you already have a fixed mindset that this drug is going to treat you better. And we know psychology plays a huge role in health of human beings. So when you have the mindset that this is going to work for me, this is not going to work for me, automatically you feel yourself responding to the one that's going to work for you. So I feel it's a two-way thing. One, actually, it could be biased from the people, from the patients. But in Nigeria, why it's so paramount, why we see that disparity between branded and unbranded, is also because many of these unbranded products are actually substandard, a lot of them. And that was where Dora Queenie came into play, whereby she played a huge role in mitigating this. But ever since that woman really passed, I really don't know if we've had a NAFDAC chairman that has really enacted so much effect, like the way she actually combated a lot of substandard drugs, because we know how children died from a lot of syrups, medications, especially in the East, whereby in Onitsha main market, I'm Igbo, right? But I have to call it out, whereby in Onitsha main market, you see many of all these fake drugs, and they were actually put under check and balances. So it's really sad that even with the going away of all these branded companies like GSK and Sanofi going next year, we're going to have more substandard drugs. And the reason why we'll have more just before
you continue, I need to ask you this question. You Toby made allusion to that. So I would expect that GSK leaving, Sanofi leaving, and then of course there are drugs becoming very expensive and perhaps out of the reach of everyday Nigerians, should even create opportunities for Emzor and Fitsin to thrive, because they now have the market space to commercialize their products at really cheap prices, that are quite competitive. So are you saying that these guys leaving, the main GSK and Sanofi leaving, does not even create opportunities for these other businesses to thrive? Is that what you're saying?
So I would say it's a two-way thing, and I would liken it to when Ukraine and Russia had started having this war, and it was a good avenue for Nigeria to thrive in terms of exporting of oils to majority of the world. And I mean, we start having a robust economy, but the reverse is actually the case, because I think our economy has not really done so bad the way it has done bad in these few amounts of months. So now these companies are going, how well are companies like indigenous companies like Emzor, Fitsin able to take over and say, okay, right now these people are going, these people have been great, not just competitors, but great competitors that have stuck in the brands of other people that they become household names. So you were literally fighting to stay afloat in the market. Now these people are leaving the stage for you to take the front row. How well are you able to ensure that you're not only just maintaining that, but also maintaining the standard? Because the reason why you talk about Canada, why you talk about Venezuela, it's not just because they were the initiators, it's because they were able to maintain a standard for this number of years that have been consistent. And people have tested and tell you, oh, I've been using Panadol for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. That's what works for me, right? Over the years. So you are coming in now, and we know, okay, you are indigenous, you've been there in the market. Are you able to come in such a way that you are able to improve your quality and maintain this quality over the years? So it's actually going to be a two-way thing. Or are you just going to feel because they have gone automatically, the way maybe we in Nigeria would have thought, oh, because there's war in Ukraine and Russia, automatically our oil prices will boom and then we'll be doing well as exporters. But you're not ready to put in the work. You're not ready to put in what it takes, right, to ensure that, okay, we have more refineries, we're more of a producer, we are less of the importers, right? So what are you going to do? What steps are you taking to say that things don't just happen automatically or by chance? Things happen because they are totally planned out. So what is their long-term goal? The next 2 to 3 years, how do they intend to get into the market, and not just get into the market, but as big players and main stakeholders that even beyond Nigeria, they are moving as far as Africa. So they're not just thinking of, okay, now we're now the brand owners, or we are the indigenous companies now in Nigeria. Beyond even Nigeria, Africa. That's what really makes you global. That's why GSK is not just GSK in Canada or UK. They are not everywhere. So you're able to break brand boundaries. So it's also I would say it's not an automatic thing, but with every blessing in quotes comes a huge responsibility. So this is a blessing in disguise for this company. Are you ready to take on huge responsibility? Because the people that have been there at the forefront, they are not there because they are just indigenous. They are there because over time they've proven that really they are the giants of this industry, or they are the giants of this particular health product. So it's actually a huge responsibility for them.
Okay, before I leave you, Chidima, I need to ask you this question. So you used to work in a particular pharmaceutical company in Nigeria. I want to understand how the the insurance scheme works in Nigeria. And the reason why we want to have this conversation is we want to know if perhaps Nigerians having some form of insurance will help in reducing the cost of these drugs. These people that pensioners or salary earners on fixed income can be able to exploit this national health insurance scheme we have in the country and still continue to access the drug. So when you used to work in your particular pharmaceutical company, if I came and told you I had insurance with NHIS or whatever, could I access those drugs from your pharmacy? Or how does NHIS work with respect to drugs in the country?
So for the government NHIS, they work with government hospitals. So what we dealt mostly in my pharmacy was mostly private health insurance, like all this private health insurance for people that work in companies. And for most of those companies, they dealt with generic drugs, that's unbranded drugs, because they are cheaper. To be fair, the only company that I saw that for a particular, it was I think it was an anti-cancer drug, and that drug was 900 and something thousand naira, and it was for someone under their insurance. It was an oil company. Every 2 months they came to refill this drug. 900 and something K as at then was actually I don't want to mention the oil company, I'm just trying to be discreet. But for the others, trust me, it's generic. When you even tell the NHS, oh, we don't have this generic amlodipine, maybe antihypertensive, they'll tell you, oh, we cannot. Novax is actually the branded GSK antihypertensive, and they'll tell you, that's expensive, we cannot cover it. So NHIS basically in Nigeria works with unbranded drugs, and not just in Nigeria. I think also here in where I am currently in Canada, even in the West, many of branded drugs are very expensive. I mean, when you want to take insulin, you don't want to go for the branded ones that will be very expensive. You want the unbranded ones that are cheaper, because you are trying to promote. So they see it also from the idea of trying to promote those companies. You can't just keep going for the branded ones, right? And then these things have been tried and tested. So it's really encouraged that, okay, try them unbranded. So for NHIs, basically, many companies work with unbranded products. And the way they do it is that I work in a company. So let's say I work maybe in a tech company, and then they make an alliance with A and B pharmaceuticals, and then when I'm sick, we have the hospital that we'll go to, and then we are treated, and then the hospital refers me to the pharmacy, and then the doctor says, okay, these are the requirements for the drugs. You can't just walk into the pharmacy and say, oh, I feel I am sick, so I need to get it. So NHIS is based on you feel you are sick, you go to the doctor recommends you back to the pharmacy. So that's how NHIS basically works. I think even all over the world, you don't just go and say, oh, I'm under NHIS and I need to get these medications. And then there are the list of medications that your company covers. So they will tell you the one that's not covered by a company. It could be partial, it could be full. You may have to take the responsibility. So it works in that way. But for Nigeria, I think NHIS is something that is coming up for new generation companies, right? And all these indigenous companies, they do a lot of NHIs. I encountered that in Lagos. I encountered that when I worked in Lagos a lot. Why for government, they have their own NHIs. For government workers, you go to the government hospitals. But the truth is that we know that in government hospitals, you really don't get good drugs. So many of those things are just names that are under NHIs in government hospitals. But at the end of the day, many government workers actually take care of themselves privately, because when you get to the government hospitals, you don't even get those drugs in the first place. So it's really sad, but it's the reality we are facing.
Of course, when we have doctors on strike, why should you even have Dorothy, let me come back to you. I would think, Dorothy, that if drugs are becoming expensive, the cure to that would be people eating well. Being able to have access to good food, eat a lot of vegetables, and take fruits, and take good walks and all those. But it seems the cost of food is now even beyond the reach of common man. So the cost of vegetables, the cost of tomatoes, the things that people would eat naturally, and draw sufficient nutrient from, is now, expensive. It even seems that people are not even eating well, because one of the things that is now becoming common in Nigeria are people who are malnourished. I had this comical interaction with someone who visited the university campus and thought that most of the students on campus had some form of terminal sickness, because they look malnourished. So I want to ask Dorothy, I mean, how do you think as an everyday person you can be supported? Because I would think that low cost of food would be an incentive on the part of the government to actually fight, against this high rise in the cost of drugs, by making sure people have access to good food, they're able to eat well, and, be healthy, which reduces their dependence on these drugs. Do you think there are other ways, or government, or, people can be supported, to ensure that this high rise in drugs can be mitigated?
Okay, thank you very much. So the thing is, it has never been the African, or let me say Nigeria kind of lifestyle to eat healthy. It has always been anything that just come, yes, as long as I'm just full, let me just eat. So Nigerians or Africans don't have the standard way of eating healthy from onset. So right now, with the way the medication is very high also, it's still not it's still not going to change anything, because until when you say Nigeria that has been so sick to an extent that he has gone to the hospital and they have to give him some meal plan or say this is how you're going to eat this or not eat that, they never change. Even those in the hospital bed tend to still eat what they still want. They sneak out and say, no, I cannot do it, I cannot do it. So it's just not going to maybe work out to say let's eat vegetables, let's eat fruit. Some people are just very cautious of doing that. But as for medications right now, I don't really think except if the government are going to step in and put in the work for things to be better, to see that okay, some kind of medications are being maybe okay or maybe available for a common man to still buy for his own health and there. But I don't see them doing anything to help again, except if they are going to just help through some other ways. Because even when Chidima was talking about the NHIS, I was just thinking about some few places that I've worked, and I just remember that the NHIS have some limits. They are very limited to things they can do for you in as a person, as a staff. You come sometimes even just to pull your tooth, they say no. And they also attend to people based on their ranking in like an organization. Who are you? What is your rank? Yes, based on your rank, you have access to some things, and then based on your position, you are limited to some things. So if there is anything the government should do right now to help, is just to find a way to make the country easy for these very pharmaceuticals people and every manufacturers, medical manufacturers, to also ease their prices. I think that way it could help every other person to be able to purchase whatever they are buying, especially when it comes to medications. But the way things are going now, I don't really think there is anything that they can do right now to actually ease this very suffering that people are going through. Food, medications, vegetables, eat right or not. So that's just it. I don't think there's anything that could be done, especially to help it.
Okay, we are about running off. Let me follow up with Peter. Peter, sincere question. Do you plan your meals? Do you eat, following a pattern, or you just eat as a spirit leads?
Well, I mean, that's it. I have some other comments made, but to answer that question in particular, I used to do that. I mean, like when I think you should have been aware of this when you were still in when I started like working out and being health conscious and all that. I used to like watch, how many calories, protein, make sure that everything is balanced and all that stuff. But for the past 1 year or so, I've kind of slacked on that, so I don't really do that much anymore. I still, however, make sure that at least I consume a lot of protein and a reasonable amount of, like carbs that is well, I mean, good carbs, let's say. I try, but I still sometimes. Yeah.
Your comments.
Okay, so now to the issue of GSK leaving Nigeria, I don't think that is a good thing for the average person in Nigeria. Because one thing that people need to understand about business and economics is the less competitors there are, the worse it is for the consumer. So now if you have fewer people in business, they don't have any more reason to drop prices. So you have a much stronger monopolistic model, right? So the less, as GSK goes out now, and let's say just Emzor that alone, they are a business, right? So they want to make as much profit as possible. If they raise the price, there's no other company that's competing to say, okay, well, no, let's bring a cheaper price. They can raise the price up, and there will be nobody to stop them from doing that, right? So that is one thing. So that might be a contribution to this, apart from the fact that maybe with GSK being there, they have more efficient processes, because that also contributes to the business and how it's able to set prices, right? It's like, how efficient are you in obtaining like raw materials in your production process and all that stuff. If these other companies are able to do that, they will be able to lower prices, but will they want to? So these are two different things, right? Okay, but now, what I think the government should do, obviously with the little I understand about, because something else that we need to know is that many of these things are very complicated. They have so many factors, stakeholders, and all that stuff. You know, for example, let me just quickly touch on the issue of power as an illustration, right? So people talk about power in Nigeria a lot, and it's like, well, I mean, if once I become the president of Nigeria now, within 1 year, power will become, everybody will have 24 hours electricity. People have been saying this for many years, but when they come, and after some time, they just forget about it, put it in the cooler. It's because there are so many stakeholders and so many forces. At least one of the things I heard was there are a lot of people there are some people, like, I don't know what they call them, cabal or whatever it is, that make a lot of money from the alternative power sources like generators, you understand? So they have a vested interest in power not being stable in the country, and they will do anything to ensure that it remains unstable. And they are influential people in government. So you see that it's not that. So coming back to this thing of the pharmacy, what I think that the government would do that can be of help, because I could also talk about insurance and how governments are struggling. Well, no, not governments, but people are adversely affected by insurance. Okay, let me give you an example. I went to do my eye test like 2 weeks ago to get these glasses, right? The price for this glass without insurance is almost half of the price with insurance. I was going to get like two. So I said, okay, let me buy two, because this one got lost about a year ago. I couldn't use glasses because of that. Okay, let me buy two. It now turned out that if I wanted to buy two with my own money, I would have paid less money than if I wanted to buy two including insurance, because the money that I have to add to it would be more than what I would just pay to buy two glasses separately. Understand? So there is also that issue that will need to be really looked into, like to craft a solution. Obviously, we want insurance, obviously, right? But it needs to be very carefully done so that at the end of the day, people don't suffer again. And even the doctors and the pharmacists don't suffer too. Because the pharmacists, the eye specialists that I was working with, they were also complaining about it. That even the insurance people are making things difficult for them themselves, right? So because again, it's about profit. Everyone wants to make as much profit as they can. So now the issue of what I think that the government can do is simply to invest in the private sector for pharmaceutical companies. Like, come up with a plan that promotes, because like Chidima was saying, what is required is research and development, a company that has a strong research and development arm, and obviously like the factories and all that stuff. So the government should do some kind of partnership, whatever it is. Sorry to allude again to Peter Obi. That's something he really did well in his state, was investing the government resources in some of these private enterprises with a business mindset. So if the government can take the money, instead of buying a yacht or buying like SUVs, whatever, right? Okay, even if it's just 1/10 of the money, take it and invest it in some of these companies, so that they can actually just like allow the market to work, right? With some guidance. I think that is the way. That is a possible solution. I'm not saying it definitely, but it might work better that way.
Peter, I would just say this, the idea of insurance is that there's proper mitigation. So when you do your car insurance, the idea behind that is almost every driver will be reasonable. You will take care of your car. So the people who will err will be very few, so we can afford to pay them, because our insurance is a Ponzi scheme. If you look at it, because if everybody defaults in the insurance, the company goes broke.
Go bankrupt,
goes bankrupt. So it means that even government needs to even ensure that people do not actually need the insurance. Make sure people, especially things that we ease, food, meals, these are things that are very helpful.
That's actually something I was going to also talk about, which is the issue of, you're talking about eating healthy, right? So that is also, okay, look at, if you compare some, even like the Western countries like the US, Canada, and all these places, they don't have healthy eating lifestyles. But if you compare them with some Asian countries like Japan, and even like, especially Japan is like the poster child of healthy eating. They have a culture of healthy eating,
That's right.
And as a result of that, they have much longer life expectancy. So it has to do with the culture. If we can have a government that will do something to encourage the culture of healthy eating, I think it will also help.
Okay. Toby, as we're running off, let me come back to you. Do you think that, China has always been to the rescue? Chinese this, Chinese this, Chinese this. You also think that perhaps this might be an opportunity for Chinese pharmaceutical companies to come into Nigeria and at least give us some China products in our, to aid the pharmaceutical industry? I think Chidima is laughing, but let me find out from Toby. Toby, does this not make sense for us? We have China. China has practically manufactured everything for us in Nigeria. So is this not also an opportunity for us to have Chinese inhalers, Chinese Panadol, Chinese? They also manufactured COVID vaccine. So what do you think?
Oh my God.
Well, I don't know. I think if you give me the option of allowing local or like Nigerian companies to grow and looking for another foreign pharmaceutical investor, I think I'll personally pick allowing Nigerian companies to grow. Because first of all, it also boosts as well as as much as it's really probably boosts our revenue as national revenue, to boost employment, to help our employment rate basically, because more jobs will be created. If those pharmaceutical companies are actually doing better, they create maybe more factories or development centers, have more graduates who can get jobs and things like that. So I think if you give me those two options, I'll pick choosing the latter. And again, there's this popular stereotype that anything made in China is not very authentic. So I don't think now that's a stereotype. I'm not saying that's true, but I don't think now would be the right time to be looking for a foreign savior again. I feel like if the government is really serious, the right move is to actually help the local pharmaceutical industry, right? Help them grow. I know that there are a lot of companies that are actually doing, even some of them that we didn't know the names, actually doing very well. But then there's a lot of politics involved, a lot of corruption also involved. I know that even, for example, for many drugs, for many edible items that are created or manufactured in the country, before you get NAFDAC, approval, sometimes you have to, wet some hands. So all those things they play their part, and some people are sitting there in their chairs waiting to make money from every opportunity. So as we are speaking now, this probably is some high class people are looking for the opportunities. Okay, how can we exploit this? How can we exploit this opportunity? So this situation. So I would say that now is not the time to look for help from other countries. In fact, the country was talking of borrowing from China, borrowing from Saudi Arabia, borrowing from, and the economic minister was saying that Nigeria cannot even afford to borrow again. So imagine looking for help, because before you even do that, as much as they'll be investing, they're also looking for money to do that, right? So I feel like right now, like I'll just say, we should look into how we can actually grow the pharmaceutical industry in Nigeria. Like Chidima said, the research culture or the research and development, what's the word I put it? In Nigeria is very poor, very, very poor. Even our educational facilities, educational institutions that should be championing these, go to me. Why are many people always trooping to foreign schools? Why are people trooping to many? Because many times they are going there for strong research facilities. Particularly many STEM students. The culture is dead in Nigeria. You go to a Nigerian university, spend 4 years, and you do some lab work and some practicals or experiments that will make you laugh. When you watch some videos on YouTube and see what people in other countries are doing, and see what you are doing as a Nigerian, you will just be shaking your head in horror. So you see, that research and development arm in Nigeria is practically dead. We are not doing enough. So I feel like now would be a time for the government to actually focus on this and find a way to revive that.
All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, in the country where we once had to come up with alternative to practical, you can imagine how great our research culture is. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had an exciting discussion, and the message is very clear this evening. Salvation is not going to come from the north or the east, it's going to come from inside Nigeria. Until we meet again next week, please do follow us on our social media platform, and do have a splendid evening. Thank you. Bye.
The Data Management System is an enterprise software service that enables the team leads, data team manager, and other administrators to successfully manage the large amounts of data that are collected by the 113 data enumerators scattered across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory of the country. After logging into the DMS, you are met with the home page. Here the number of team leads we have, the number of submissions that have been received by the team leads in the current week, as well as the total number of local government areas that are covered are shown. Just below that, there is a chart that shows the number of enumerators that have been changed for each month of the year. Finally, at the bottom of the page, there is the price fluctuation chart that allows you to see the price changes for the food items that are covered in our data collection process. On the Team Leads page, you can find the details about the team leads that are currently employed in the company. You are also able to change some details for the team lead, as well as enrolling a new LGA, as well creating a profile for a new team lead. On the Form Responses page, you are able to track the responses by the enumerators. However, this is only possible for responses that have been submitted by the team leads. At the top of the page, you can track the number of team lead submissions as well as the number of expected submissions for the week. The responses can be tracked according to the data categories available. Finally, the data can be downloaded for the required category. The Response Tracker page allows you to track the submission time of the team leads, while also allowing you to also view this data for the previous 5 weeks. On the Master List page, you are able to see the entirety of the data contained in the database. You can also filter by dates, and finally, you can download the selected data. Finally, on the History page, you are able to track the activities on the DMS or DCF. Hello there. Oaks Intelligence is one of the fastest rising technology and business companies that offers services such as software development, where we build, maintain, support, and provide assistance throughout the entire software development lifecycle. We have built a massive team of enumerators across the country who amass data for us on a weekly basis. The data collected is used to curate interesting newsletters and beautiful content that keep our subscribers abreast of the economic health of our country. That's not all yet. We also offer consulting services for business analysis and process improvement for your products and services. We have authored economic and financial books for children and teenagers. And finally, we offer project management services to help you execute tremendous projects, making your dreams and goals achievable and a reality. To get more information about us and regular feeds from us, you can follow us on all of our social media handles.